Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to another episode of Manifesting Muslimah. I'm your host, Zara Pedersen, and today we are going to ruffle some feathers. I say we as if I'm a royal. It's the royal we. It is just me. I'm just the only one sitting here talking, but I'm going to stick with it. We are going to ruffle some feathers today, perhaps. I say that only because I've actually spoken about this before over on TikTok, and some people weren't fans of it. In fact, some of them were kind of, quite angry, quite upset that I would use this term and also that I would say what I'm about to say, which is obviously looking at the title of this episode, about pageant duas. Are you making pageant duas? Okay, let's talk about this because I actually think a lot of us, I'm not going to say are wasting our times making pageant duas, but could be more efficient with the duas that we're making. And sometimes we just need a little bit of a wake up call. So I'm hoping that this episode today will be your wake up call so you can shake yourself out of making pageant duas and make genuine duas, heartfelt duas. Okay, so before we talk about this, I feel like I need to explain what a pageant dua is. Okay, so first of all, a pageant dua is not something that exists. Let me just try and say that again. It's not a term that exists outside, I think, of when I talk about it. I haven't heard anybody else use this term. This is just a term that I have coined. So if you haven't heard this term before, don't worry. It's not a thing that sheikhs and muftis are using. It is literally just something that I have coined myself after having worked with Muslim women for, 10 years now. So it's a term that I have used myself. So don't worry if you haven't heard about it before. But what do I mean when I use the term pageant duas? Well, I mean the duas that you make because you think that Allah wants to hear that. The dua that you make because you think it'll bring you favor in Allah. The dua that you make because you think it'll look good and it'll sound good and it somehow will elevate your status with Allah. Like the kind of dua that you're just... the reason why I call it a pageant dua is because I'm think about like the Miss USA, Miss World, Miss Universe, all of those competitions where all those beautiful ladies parade around looking absolutely stunning. And then there's like that Q&A version of or aspect of this whole competition where they're like, what would your perfect day be like? Or what do you wish most in the world or whatever? And it's kind of become a stereotype within itself because the answers are always kind of pageant like super pageanty, where they say things that they think other people want to hear instead of just being honest. So what would a perfect day be like for you? Oh, I just want to lay in bed and scroll TikTok and just still have money coming in and not worrying about it. That would be somewhat of a perfect day. I mean, I could have lots of different types of perfect days, but right now I feel like that would be a perfect day, just lying around doing nothing and still making money. That sounds pretty perfect to me, or damn near perfect, right? But you'll never hear that in a pageant, right? You won't hear, I just want to go to 7 different restaurants and eat and eat and eat and then come home and watch Netflix. You're not going to hear that at a pageant. You hear the fluffed up version, I will sleep in until 6:30 a.m. and then I'll want to journal and I'll want to sit somewhere quiet and enjoy my cup of matcha tea. And then I'm going to go and do yoga or Pilates with my girlfriends. And then we're going to have brunch. And then we're going to go to a museum and I'll wear my favorite dress. And then I'll go and see my boyfriend and his in-laws. And then I'll spend, his in-laws, my in-laws. I don't know. It's just stuff like that. Or what do you wish for world? What do you wish for most? World peace. That. I know that that's a stereotype, but I'm also really feeding into the stereotype of the pageant answers, right? The pageant speeches. That's what I'm feeding into here. So obviously what I'm saying is an exaggeration because I'm feeding into the stereotype, okay? So if you're a pageant girly, don't come for me. I'm not a pageant girly. I'm feeding into a stereotype by using the term pageant, okay? But basically, saying stuff or answering with things that you think other people want to hear, that's going to make them feel impressed by you, right? But then bringing it into the dua, doing that in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. Look at it also like the pageant dua. It could also be like the Instagram dua, like the edited version, like the fluffed up romanticized version. So you're not going to post a picture of yourself. Well, not a lot of people, at least, like for those of people who take their Instagram game seriously and are going to post like, oh, today I was just like super lazy. I haven't showered in 3 days and I look like crap and I am having sausages on toast for breakfast, lunch and dinner. Like that's not an Instagrammable day. You know, you'll want to like make sure you've got your makeup on, you want to do your hair or fix your hijab real nice, and you want to make sure you got good lighting and like, oh look, today I woke up early and I went and did the Pilates thing or yoga, or I went and worked out and lifted weights, but like I did it in a matching Gymshark outfit and not like the old Lord of the Ring t-shirts that, well, I did that when I first started my fitness game like 12 years ago. I would go in with like old leggings from Primark and a t-shirt, like an oversized t-shirt like of Lord of the Rings, like because I was a massive Lord of the Rings fan when I was a kid and I loved it. But so I had a lot of like the shirts and stuff. So that's how I would work out, you know. But like, you know, you're not going to see that necessarily on Instagram. You're going to see like the matching outfits and all that good stuff. Like it's the thing that you think people will be impressed with. That's what you post on Instagram, and that's the pageant dua as well. But again, as I said, here you're not showing it on Instagram. You're not doing it to win a competition. You're doing it in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what is a pageant dua? What could a pageant dua sound like? A pageant dua could sound like, I'm not going to ask for anything for myself. I'm going to just make dua for everyone else. And then I hope Allah will be so impressed by the fact that I'm not asking for anything for myself that he will grant all of my wishes. That's a pageant dua. A pageant dua could be, I'm going to pray for people that I don't like. I'm going to pray for the person that I don't like. I'm not going to mean it really. But I'm going to still pray for them. I'm going to be like, dear God, show them enlightenment. Please, God, help them through their trials. And in like at the same time, you're just like kind of secretly hoping and wishing that Allah sees right through their BS and like punishes them for what they've done to you or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Am I the only petty one? Am I the only petty one here? Okay, so that is a pageant dua. A pageant dua can look like many different things. A pageant dua could also be minimizing your dreams, minimizing your dua because you think you sound too greedy, because you think you sound ungrateful, because you think you sound like you're asking for too much. That could also be a pageant dua. Like coming to Allah and in reality, you're like, I really want to have a 6-figure income, a year, a month, whatever. And instead of saying that to Allah, you're like, but like, if you just give me 3, I'll be happy. Like, it's fine. Like, I'll be happy. Like, you know, like you're minimizing it in front of Allah because you think somehow that is more impressive, that like, but I have to show Allah that it's like, I'm not greedy. So even if he just gives me less, then I will be happy. And in reality, Allah is the one who's inspired you to want that kind of dream. Like he's inspiring you to be like, hey, ask me for what you want. Like the dua is a powerful tool. Like, and I'm ready and willing to bless. And I've made a promise to answer your dua. So like, what are you doing? You know? So let's talk about why these are pageant duas and why I'm like so against them, because clearly you can hear that I am, right? And if you can't, now you know. The pageant dua is a waste of time. I say waste of time. Don't take it that seriously, because of course it's not a waste of time to speak to Allah. It's not a waste of time to pray for other people, even the people that you hate. There's no such thing as a waste of time if you're doing something with Allah or in front of Allah or to Allah or for the sake of Allah, right? That'll never be a waste of time. So take it with a grain of salt when I say that, okay? But what I mean is that you could be using your time and your energy and that time with Allah so much better. You can be having more genuine, honest conversations with Allah, not because He can't see you when you're honest, but because He knows when you're not. Allah sees right through you. He knows everything that's in you, within you, around you, that He's inspired you with, all of that stuff. So that is the one place that you don't want to minimize, that you don't want to be humble, that you don't want to forget to say things. That is the place where you want to show up in 100% authenticity, even if sometimes it looks ugly or greedy or needy or ungrateful or petty or whatever it might be. That is the one place where you can allow yourself 100% authenticity, transparency, honesty, and vulnerability. And so to show up in a dua with anything less than any of that is a quote unquote waste of time, right? With a pinch of salt again, remember that, okay? And that's what I'm here to remind you of today. I'm here to remind you that Allah sees everything. He knows, what does He say? That He is closer to us than our jugular vein, right? So like, how can He be closer to them? Because He is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He transcends, okay? So He's closer to us than we are to ourselves. And we're sometimes like, ugh, I'm too close to myself. I can smell myself. Wow, I am in a mood today, clearly. What is going on? But, like we feel like, oh, I know myself better than anyone or whatever. And I have all of these secrets and I'm really just fooling everybody left, right, and center and whatever. But you can do that with people. You can even do that with yourself, but you can't do that with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The moment you have a desire for something, like a genuine desire for something, not like an earthly, ego-led desire, socially, traditionally, culturally led. Like we're talking like full, deep, God-given desire. It is there because the word or the key is in the word there or in the phrase, God-given, because Allah has given it to you. Allah has given you certain desires. Allah has made you want to strive for certain things in this dunya. And that is because Allah is ready to bless you with those things. Sometimes it is because there is a lot of risk in it, like immediately. Sometimes it's because there's a lesson in it that'll take you to another level of risk that you can't even fathom or imagine. So stop trying to minimize that or limit that from your du'as. Stop coming into your du'as thinking about, what does Allah want to hear from me? How can I possibly say this in a way where Allah's going to be more impressed with me? How can I speak to Him in a way where He feels like I am better than I actually am, or the way that I feel, or whatever it might be? Because Allah already knows you. He knows that you want that thing. So when you're coming to the dua, and I'm just going to be so for real with you. If you come to the dua because you want a Gucci bag, let's just say, or like any kind of bag. I don't know if Gucci is a thing that people want anymore. But something like a designer bag of some sort. And you really just want the bag. Now, this might not be a God-given desire, but still, you still really want this bag. And you're not saying that to Allah. You're not going to Allah and saying, look, I don't know if it's like, you can help me with this, but like, I really want that bag. It's a really pretty bag. And I've got a pair of boots that, together, the combination will be fire. And I feel like I'd really slay with I don't know why I'm talking like this. And I don't know why I'm going to talk like a Gen Zer. You just think like, I have a combination in my outfit and I've got like a special occasion to wear it to, but I don't know how I'm going to make that happen. If you can, if it's for me, if you think that I deserve this bag, can you make a way for it to happen so that I can get this bag? Even something like that is perfectly acceptable. And in fact, I would argue that it's a better thing just to be that open with Allah, even when it's something that feels so minuscule, so tiny. Like, I'm asking Allah for a bag, and meanwhile there are people out there asking for I don't know, their sick aunt to get better or their children to live long, healthy lives or whatever. Like there are people who are making like these big, grand prayers for life changing things. And then you're sitting there making a prayer for a bag. That's okay. That's okay. I don't know if anybody's ever told you that, but that's okay. You're allowed to. No one said you can't ask for simple things because other people are asking for great, grand, big things. Nobody said that, right? And you can also be like, hey, by this, like, by the way, if you genuinely mean that and your heart's in that place and you genuinely mean it and you come from an authentic place, to say, I also pray for this person and these people or whatever. But if you're only praying for them and you're neglecting what's genuinely going on, and so you're leaving the dua not feeling fulfilled, not feeling complete, not feeling in love, not feeling safe, not feeling trusted, taken care of, provided for by the only provider, then who are you actually harming in this? You're harming yourself and potentially your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So even if it sounds so ridiculous and you're like, oh, but I can't believe that I'm going to sit down here and ask Allah for a pair of boots or a bag or, I don't know, rent for the next month. Like you feel like it sounds silly or like whatever. And it's like, yeah, but it doesn't, like, it's your life and Allah's just happy the moment you sit down and have a conversation with him. He doesn't care what you're talking to him with, as long as you're talking to him. You can talk to him because you want to complain, just because you want to vent. You just want to sit to Allah and say, I want to say it to you because, excuse me, let me just get comfortable. I still don't have a desk in my new house. So I'm sitting recording on my bed and it's such an awkward position. Inshallah, this weekend I'll have a desk and then it'll be easier for me to record. And it doesn't help that I have dogs that don't know what personal space is. And so it's even more awkward to sit comfortably because they want to sit where I want to rest my elbow and I don't want to dig my elbow into their cute little fluffy stomachs. Goodness, I have it hard, don't I? Alhamdulillah. Okay, what was I saying? I can't remember. Something. It'll come back to me if it's important. But Allah loves it when you speak to him. Allah wants to hear from you. Like you can, yeah, that was where I was going. You can have a venting conversation with Allah. You can just sit down and be like, I'm really irritated, and it's safest for me to vent to you than it is to vent with other people, because then I might be backbiting. Like, right? Or I could be encouraging other people to backbite, or, we could be gossiping about a person, or they could make me feel worse, or I could make them feel worse. I could have an impact on them or their relationship or idea of another person or a situation. And I don't have to fear that with you, Allah. So I'm going to come to you and I'm going to complain because I can get it out of my system without it negatively affecting me going forward or the people around me. You can come to dua just to sit and be grateful and be like, I genuinely, like, there's a lot of things that I want, but right now I actually just want to say thank you. Like, I'm just genuinely happy. And the amount of times I've actually had that conversation with Allah where I've sat in dua and I've just said, there are so many things I want, Allah, and I've asked you for it and I will continue to ask you for it. But right now, I genuinely just feel really, really grateful for everything that you've given me. And I just want to take a moment just to sit in the gratitude and show you how grateful I am for that. So again, I'm not neglecting that I want a lot of stuff. I'm just saying, while I want a lot of stuff, there's also the gratitude. And sometimes I just want to sit in the gratitude of the things and just be thankful, right? But then there'll be other times where I'm like, okay, Allah, listen, I'm gonna have a real conversation with you now, because I feel like I'm struggling on this point or that point, or I feel like I've been wanting this thing for a long time and it's not happening. Can you please guide me? I need you to open a door, to show me something that I'm not seeing, like make it obvious for me, because clearly I'm being slow. Like, I can have those conversations as well, where I can put my sense of urgency on something as well. So I'm having real genuine conversations with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instead of making it a pageanty, like, Alhamdulillah, I'm so stressed out, but alhamdulillah, I'm really stressed out, like I need your help, like I feel like I'm like really struggling to keep myself together, keep myself composed. And I just need that, I just need that extra hand. I need that extra support. I'm not saying to come to Allah without humility. So I'm not rocking up being like, you have to give me this and you have to listen to me and do this, that, and the other. This is not what I'm talking about. And please don't read into that in what I'm saying. What I'm saying is just be honest with Allah, be vulnerable with Allah, be real with Allah, because Allah sees right through all of it, right? He knows what's going on inside you. So if you're trying to trick him into thinking something else is happening when it's not, the joke's on you, because Allah already knows what's going on. So if you haven't for a while, I always encourage everyone that I know is like, to have a genuine conversation with Allah. Like, sit down and talk more to Allah, get comfortable talking to Allah, get comfortable having real conversations with Allah, the way that you would sit down and like have a conversation with a friend, except of course you know that you're talking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? You're not talking to your bestie that you grew up with, you're talking to your creator. So you also come in with an even bigger level of trust and faith, because you know that this is the only place where prayers can be heard, where problems can be solved, where stress can be dissolved. This is the place to go. You can have all of these conversations with your best friend, but your best friend is not more powerful than you. And your best friend is not more powerful than Allah. And when I say not more powerful than you, I mean like you were created in an equal way. You know, she can't fly. I don't know, like outside of in an aircraft, like she can't flap her arms and fly. Like, she hasn't gotten superpowers to heal your problems and whatever. Like, she might be able to advise you and stuff, but ultimately she can't do anything without the Allah willing it also to be. So have the kind of conversations that you would have with your girlfriend, have them with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sit down and have those genuine conversations. Leave the pageantry for the job interview. Leave the pageantry for when you talk to your potential future in-laws. You know, there's a time and a place for those things where sometimes they can be beneficial, where they can make you look in a way that could be favorable rather than your usual, perhaps crass self. I'm saying crass because I'm a crass person, or disorganized person, or whatever it is that you might be like. So sometimes there's a time and a place for a pageant dua. The pageant dua, here I will actually tell you this right now. Here's where the pageant dua is applicable. When you're making group duas. Okay, so when you're sitting with other people making a dua together and you're maybe leading the dua, that is not the time for you to go into your personal ish. That is not the time for you to be like, I'm going to ignore everybody around here and I'm just going to make my own personal dua, but like somehow we're all praying the same dua. Like, do you know those duas where somebody's leading the dua, right? That is the time where you can probably do the pageant dua a little bit more, you know, like fluff it up a little, because there are other people there, right? But in your personal, private time with Allah, when you're sitting down one-on-one and there's not an audience and there's nobody else that you're leading in the dua with you, be honest. Leave the pageantry at the door. Come to Allah in honesty, vulnerability. Come to Him in that authentic, with that authentic energy of, Allah, you already know what's inside me. I'm just trying to put words on it to the best of my understanding, and to try and figure out how to prioritize with the things that you're placing in front of me. And as your servant, I know that for anything to happen, I need to come to see you about it, not everybody else. So that is what I'm here for. Do you see what I mean? So yeah, as I said, the pageant dua thing is not something that I've heard other people talk about. I think it's also, and I know it can be kind of a sensitive thing for a lot of people, because it is like, but you're talking about Allah, and like, you know, there is this sense of defensiveness, because it's like, why am I not allowed to make dua? I never said that. You're allowed to make dua for other people. You're allowed to make dua asking for world peace and all of these things. Please do. There's a lot of blessings in that as well, right? There's a lot of barakah in it for you, and for the other people that you're praying for. So don't stop making that. But what I'm saying is, don't just do that. Don't just do that. Don't forget yourself in your dua. Don't forget yourself and hope other people will remember you in theirs, because they might not, right? So that's what I'm saying. I'm saying, feel free to add in everybody else and their stepsons and whatever in your dua. Go ahead. But don't make that your entire dua. Don't just do that because you think that is what Allah wants to hear. Do it because it is genuine. Do it because you genuinely mean it. Do it because you want that change for these people, right? But don't do it because you feel like you have to, because Allah sees through that as well, right? He's like, but what, like, you don't mean it. You're just doing it because you have to. It's just like coming to prayer, not because you want to pray to Allah, but because you want to impress the person sitting in the room with you. That's not a salah for Allah. That's a salah for the person sitting there. Allah sees right through that. So of course he'll also see that in your dua. The only problem is that nobody else is watching. So it's literally you trying to lie to yourself or impress yourself or something. I'm not sure what it is. But it's not a genuine dua. So keep that in mind. Be honest with yourself in order to be honest with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ultimately. But yeah, so I understand that there can be a little bit of defensiveness around it. But I would encourage you to, if you feel a little bit defensive about this, to have a look at the way that you're making du'as, right? And look back, because from my personal experience with the women that I've worked with, often experienced that a lot of women don't ask for things for themselves in their dua. I don't know. Like I'm cool asking for my sisters, for my mum, my friends, strangers, people that are asking me of it in social media, whatever. But I just haven't asked Allah for it. And it's like, well, for myself, for the thing for myself. Like I'm okay praying for everybody else, but not for myself. And so I quite often find that through my work, that when I ask these women, like, how does it feel when you talk to Allah about it? Well, I haven't. Okay. I mean, you're more comfortable talking to me about it. Like, I can't do anything. That you should go to the source, like the one that can provide, the one that can create the changes, the one who creates miracles and blesses us with abundance. That is the one you should go to, not me. Like, cool. You want to talk to me about it and whatever. Like, I'm not going to stop you. But like, ultimately, I can't do anything for you. Allah can. And so learning to have these kinds of du'as, these honest du'as with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala really helps to strengthen your relationship with him. And that's how we create a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's by seeking him out, speaking to him, looking to Allah for answers before we start asking everybody else. That's where it starts, really. And then not just doing it one time, but doing it several times, over and over and over again. But yeah, so there you have it. I'd love to hear your take on this, on pageant du'as versus more genuine du'as. Have you been wasting your time doing that? Or are you really good at connecting with Allah and speaking to Allah from a genuine point? I'd love to hear your thoughts. You can reach out to me over on Instagram at Manifesting Muslimah. You know me, I don't really like texting, so I can send a voice note back. You don't have to send me one if you don't like it, but I just like to respond that way. And if you're interested in working with me, I keep forgetting to do this. There's links everywhere where you can have links here in the show notes, on my Instagram, my TikTok. The most popular way for you to reach out to me and contact me and like work with me is through my membership. I absolutely love it in there, and the women are wonderful. We'd love to meet you. We've got women from all over the world right now, and it's absolutely wonderful. It's £10 a month. If you are interested in more private, just us, you and I, a video call, you can also work with me one-on-one. And of course, I also have my online courses that you can do at any moment whenever you have the time or the inspiration and motivation to do those for yourself. Everything is linked in the show notes and then everywhere that I can link something in my bio on TikTok and Instagram and all that good stuff. Anyway, I love hearing from you. So please do reach out if you've got suggestions for podcast episodes, feedback, anything like that. I absolutely adore every single one of you, and I hope I will see you next week, inshallah, for the next episode. But until then, my darling friend, please don't forget to live in love.